Of our pigskin preview. We're going to jump right into it. We're going to go over to the Nick 10, and with me right now, starting his fourth season at Auburn, head coach Dan Appino. Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
Good morning, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Hey, let's talk about something that's kind of football related, but something that's been a part of your team this off season. You have a young man that's been fighting some cancer, I understand. Can you give us kind of an update on what you guys have learned from that experience with him?
Trevihon Sockwell is going to be a junior this year. He was going to compete for a starting spot on the defensive side of the ball. And last spring, he was diagnosed with a form of Hodgkin's lymphoma. He's gone through some grueling chemotherapy here, and doctors are optimistic that he's going to be able to get through this.
That's a tough thing, isn't it, to go through one of your players going through that? And does that kind of give you an opportunity to be a kind of like the dad with the other kids saying, hey, this can happen to you? Football's important, but we also have to worry about other things once in a while?
Well, it definitely establishes a community sense with your group. You know, you realize that, this is a temporary life we lead, and, we got to pull together if we're going to make it special for each other. And I think our teammates have really rallied around him well.
And I saw you had your head shaved, right, Coach? You look pretty handsome right there, I think.
The coaches were the only ones who shaved their heads because I think they had the least amount of hair on the team. So I think that's just not a style with kids anymore. But the kids have done a lot of other things to support Trey. And,
nice.
They break at least once a day when they have a team break. It's on him. And everybody's kind of rallying around and obviously making it an issue on social media as well as in person when they talk to each other.
Let's talk about this upcoming season, your fourth year at Auburn. A lot of good things have happened there. 2 out of the 3 years you've been there, you've been in the playoffs. And the program really seems to be going in the direction that you told us about when you first started at Auburn. Is that what you're seeing right now too, Coach?
Well, it is and it isn't. It is in that we knew there were athletes here at the school that they needed simply to be trained in a system, from Frosh to senior year that would help them not only be successful on the football field, but also in the classroom and in college down the road. And the only frustrating thing about it, Dave, is we haven't had as many kids jump on board because there's a lot of work involved with it, a lot of time commitment. But, boy, the kids who have jumped on board have really made it exciting for us.
And, this summer, everybody thinks you football coaches and the football players take the summer off. No, they don't, because there's been a lot of talk. You have 3 kids, at least 3 kids I know of, that are D1 prospects, and other kids that are getting looked at by probably lower levels of college. That's got to make you feel really good, too, for your kids and for the program.
It really does, and I think it's one of the best sales pitches for a really rigorous program is, hey, this is a lot of work, but it has a payoff. It's kind of like life. You invest in things, you get a return, and we want those kids to invest in their academics and certainly in their football careers while they're here.
We're talking with Auburn head football coach Dan Appino starting his fourth season. Let's talk about the offense. I know you have to have a new quarterback. Your guy, Christian Lopez, who had a great season for you, he's gone off to college. So can you tell us a little bit about offense and what you're looking at this year, Coach?
Well, that's our big question mark right now. We have 3 guys vying for the starting position. We got probably the senior with the lead in on it, Mike Garza, throws the ball really well. And then we've got 2 juniors who are competing with him as well. Nate Jarrett. Nate really runs our run offense well, and Delano Mack throws the ball really well. So everybody brings a different facet to the game, and we're using this as a real competition throughout our inter squad and first week of the season to see who's going to be the guy taking the snaps. In the rest of the offense, we have some terrific skill kids. We have a couple of really good-sized linemen, and we think that if we stay healthy and continue to build on what we're doing in camp, that we'll have the makings of a pretty good offensive unit.
I think last year you used Garza a lot at quarterback, too. Didn't you bring him in certain situations? And, boy, he was impressive last year.
Well, we had to in a couple because Christian Lopez got knocked out of the first quarter of the Boiling game last year, if you remember. And so he picked the rest of those snaps, and then he was our backup throughout the season. And he also played wide receiver as well.
Let's take a look at defense. I mean, defense is one of the things that Auburn has really built a lot of success on, and you got a man named Parchman. Man, he was flying around a couple games I saw this year. You got to be thrilled to have a guy like that back there.
We are. We think we've got the core of our defense back with our nose guard, Ontario Hanna, who was all-conference last year, and then our leading tackler the last 2 years, Alfonso Lambert, is back at our Mike linebacker position, and backing him up is Joanna free safety. So we feel like the core of our defense is going to be exceptional. It's just how good can we get at our edges, and that's something that we're coaching up every day in practice.
You know, special teams there for the first year or so, they were a little shaky, but that seems to improve too. You seem to come up with a kicker once in a while, and you've done some good things on special teams. That's got to make you feel good, though, too, doesn't it, Coach?
It does. It's obviously a concern for us again this year. We graduated our senior punter and kicker last year, Colin Osborne, and this year we're auditioning a number of guys for those roles. We had a kicker, but he transferred over to Guilford to play soccer, and so now we're looking in a lot of different areas to try and replace those guys.
That could be a tough job for a football coach, Ken, especially to find somebody that's that skilled like Osborne last year. He was one of the best in the conference.
That was just a unique situation that kind of fell into our hands. He couldn't play offensive line anymore after he had a neurological disease in his shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
So he just decided, you know what, I'm going to find a way to help my team by kicking, and he worked at it, and he got some help from Derek Dimke, and he really made huge strides last year, and he's actually going to walk on and kick down at Truman State as well.
You know, you've had a couple of kids that played for you, Boyle and Dimke, and then you've had some other ones. They come back and help a little bit. That's kind of nice, too, isn't it?
It really is a beautiful thing. I mean, they realize that, you know, in our community, that's just not something that's emphasized at the lower levels, and also because we probably don't have the strong soccer background like they had at Boylan. I mean, you don't get a lot of kids who kind of, you know, opt out of soccer and go into football. So it's one of those glaring weaknesses in our community. We get some kids with great size and speed, but we don't get a lot of kickers. And so that's something we've been trying to change at our middle school levels and certainly emphasizing at our lower levels of football here at Auburn.
Coach, let's take a look at the Nick 10 this year. I think this is one of the years where you could throw up a bunch of names and say, yeah, they might be able to handle it. But a lot of people are talking about Auburn, that this could be Auburn's year. Last year you lost a tough game to Belvedere North, but you beat Hononegah, gave them their only loss. So you played the conference champs pretty close to the vest last year. Is this one of your better teams, you think, at Auburn? And what's the rest of the conference look like to you?
Well, we think it's probably the best team we've had in our 4 years here. But I definitely think everybody needs to start talking about Harlem as much as they talk about Auburn, or more than they talk about Auburn, because Harlem returns almost their whole offense. They've got some exceptional kids over there, and I think they're going to probably be the team to beat this year.
This is kind of fun, isn't it, having a very competitive conference? That's got to make everybody better, especially when playoff time comes around.
Well, it definitely makes every game more meaningful. It's better for the kids, and certainly it's better for our conference and our fans.
Hey, you open up with East. You know, Gary Griffin starting his second year. Last year he kind of rushed into that job and, you know, it was kind of late in the season. But this year he's had some time to work on it. I know they've worked hard. They might be a little scary to start the season with.
Oh, Gary's put a lot of energy into that program. He's a passionate guy, and knowing him, he's going to have a bunch of guys fired up to play week one. So, yeah, we're expecting a really good game week one.
You know, when you look at the schedule, the way they rotate, do you like that as a coach? Every 2 years you rotate the bottom team to the top and kind of mix it up every year?
I do like the idea of rotating. You know, I think obviously everybody's got something that they dislike about the schedule. I mean, when you play three really good teams in a row,
yeah, I bet.
Everybody's got that. That can be a little bit disparaging, but you know, I do like the rotation because it certainly gives you a chance to kind of prepare in a different way every couple of years. If you stick around for a while, you see a lot of those rotations, and it's kind of fun.
Would you like to see a rivalry game be the final game of the season for everybody, or doesn't that matter to you at Auburn?
That doesn't matter to me. If you're good and you work at it, I think any game can be a rivalry game, you know, because people will fire up to play you. There were a lot of people my first year that I don't think really fired up to play Auburn. You know, that was the first thing I noticed is that I don't know how up they got to play Auburn, and now I think they are treating us as a playoff opponent and preparing accordingly each week.
Well, thanks, Coach, for taking time out. Always a pleasure to talk to you. It's hard to believe it's been 4 years at Auburn, but we appreciate it, and we'll talk to you during the season.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate your coverage.
You bet. We've been talking to Auburn head coach Dan Appino, starting his 4th year at Auburn. Hard to believe.